Chapter 9. The Long Fast. My knees are weak through fasting, and my flesh faileth of fatness. Psalms 109:24. Preparation. Fasting for 3 days is considered a long fast for most people. My first 3-day fast was one of the worst tortures I ever endured. The reasons later became obvious. My body was not used to such treatment, it had insufficient means to cope with it, and I knew almost nothing about what I was doing. Added to that, my system was bogged down with junk food. Generally speaking, the poorer the condition of the body, the worse will be the reaction to a fast. As a person practices missing a meal or two, and extends it for a day or two, his body begins to develop the means for handling this new situation. Using proper procedures, the length of the fast can be extended for longer and longer periods, without any physical loss of strength or serious misery calls from the stomach. People going on an extended fast for the first time may think they are going to die from lack of food, but it is a well-known fact with scientists and physiologists that a person can go from 90 to 115 days without any food and live, and that he can go without water 12 days and live. The Grape Cure, Brand, page 46. But, of course, these are the outside limits which are unnecessary to even approach in the principle of fasting. The first preparation for a fast should be mental. Preparing the mind is just as important as the fast itself. Attitude makes a difference in almost anything we do, and it is no different with a fast, as Gandhi explained. With some, fasting is of no avail, because assuming that mechanical fasting alone will make them immune, they keep their bodies without food, but feast their minds upon all sorts of delicacies, thinking all the while what they will eat and what they will drink after the fast terminates. Such fasting helps them in controlling neither palate nor lust. Fasting is useful when mind cooperates with starving body, that is to say, when it cultivates a distaste for the objects that are denied to the body. Gandhi, page 210. During a long fast from food and juice, the body makes some drastic changes, and also experiences certain negative reactions. 1. A loss of strength. 2. Muscle pain. 3. Reduced body activity. 4. Slower mental processes. 5. Loss of concentration. 6. Lowering of desires. 7. Irritable, restless, and maybe sullen. However, on the other side, there is an increase in the senses of hearing and smelling. Vision is not impaired, nor does the brain deteriorate. But it is very important to consider both positive and negative side effects before deciding to go on a long fast. It is generally acknowledged that the first day or two is the worst part of any fast, and it is at this point that people often weaken and refuse to fast any longer, thinking that the longer they fast, the worse it will become. But fasting actually gets much easier as it continues, if done properly, and certainly subsequent fasts become easier. Each time a person fasts, the better prepared he is to extend the next fast for a longer period of time. I learned that the cleaner you are, the easier it is to fast, and the longer you can stand it. In other words, in a body free from all waste and poisons, and when no solid foods are taken, the human body functions for the first time in its life without obstructions. Mucusless diet, Erit, page 160. This was learned from my own personal experience. A month after completing my 40-day fast, I decided to go on another fast for 3 days. However, it was so easy that after a few days I couldn't even remember if it was the 3rd or 4th day. A month later, during a 1-week fast, the temptation to sit down to a meal never arose until the evening of the 6th day. In considering a long fast, it should be remembered that, according to Johanna Brandt, no fast should ever be extended past 60 days, the main reason being that nothing beneficial can result after that time. 40-day fasts. Since the scriptures say that both Moses, Elijah, and Christ fasted for 40 days, the question arises, is there some special significance to the number 40? It is interesting to summarize the notable dates and events that have occurred with the number 40. It has played a conspicuous role in the history of Israel. 1. It rained 40 days and 40 nights during the flood. Gen. 7:4. 2. When Jacob died, his son Joseph had him embalmed, and 40 days were fulfilled for him. Gen. 53. 3. Moses fasted 40 days to get the higher law for Israel. Dude. 9:11, Acts 34:28. 4. Moses fasted 40 days to get the lesser law. Dude. 10:10. 5. Israel's scouting party spent 40 days searching for new land. Num. 13:25. 6. Israel sinned and would bear the burden for 40 years. Num. 14:34. 7. Gideon enjoyed peace in the land for 40 years. Judges 8:28. 8. The Philistine Goliath presented himself 40 days to the Israelites. Isam. 17:16. 9. David reigned over Israel 40 years. I Kings 2:11. 10. Elijah spent 40 days fasting. I Kings 19:9. 11. Elijah lay on his side 40 days for the house of Judah. Ezek. 4:6. 12. Jonah cried to Nineveh that it would be destroyed in 40 days. Jonah 3:4. 13. Jewish worship included about 40, the number of formal fast days in each year. Mortal Messiah 185, McConkie. 14. When Jesus was 40 days old, they took him to the temple to be purified. See Luke 2:22, also Mill. Messiah, page 350. 15. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days. Matt. 4:2. 16. The temple at Jerusalem was built in slightly over 40 years. John 2:20, also, the Salt Lake Temple was constructed in 40 years. 17. Jesus was seen of his disciples for 40 days after his resurrection. Acts 1:3. 18. The Nephites wandered for 40 days in the wilderness. Messiah 7:4. 19. The great battle of extermination among the Nephites and Lamanites lasted for a period of 40 years. See Mormon 5 to Moroni 10 380 AD to 420 AD. 20. And in this dispensation the prophet Joseph Smith, after meeting all forms of resistance, once cried out, "Would to God that I had 40 days and nights in which to tell you all. I would let you know that I am not a Len prophet." TPJS, page 355. To better understand these 40-day fasts, let's consider the account of Moses in more detail. When he was on Mount Sinai for 40 days to receive the higher law, the scripture reads, "And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mount, in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud, and get him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. Acts 24:16-18. During this fast the Lord sustained him, and it was a fast centered upon receiving the law of God. It was not for any physical benefit, nor is there any mention of it as such, but when he came down from the mountain, he was clothed with brightness and holiness. However, when he saw the corruption of the children of Israel, he broke that set of stones. He once again fasted for 40 days, praying that the Lord would not destroy the people. And I took the 2 tables, and cast them out of my 2 hands, and brake them before your eyes. And I fell down before the Lord, as at the first, 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread, nor drink water, because of all your sins which ye sinned, in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure, wherewith the Lord was wroth against you to destroy you. But the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also." Jude 9:17-19. While Moses was on the mount for the 2nd time, he obtained another set of laws, the lesser law called the 10 Commandments, this time written by Moses himself. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, he did neither eat bread, nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. Acts 34:28. So Moses made 2 trips up the mountain and was on 2 40-day fasts. These are special fasts, directed and sustained by the Lord, otherwise Moses would have died. He endured more than mortal man could have by himself, which proved that certainly God was with him. Alan Johnson made these important observations about the 40-day fasts of Moses, Elijah, and Christ. These fasts have been largely misunderstood by most Christians. The length of these fasts was not necessarily given as an example for men to follow. Each was special, and each had a distinct purpose. None of these fasts were undertaken by the persons involved of their own choice, because they sought a blessing from God. Each was led by God into the fast and was sustained by him during the entire period. It is essential to understand that there is a distinct difference between these special long fasts and the regular short fasts which God established for his people to keep. The scriptures do not support the contention that such long fasts would endow all men with the special powers from God which Moses, Elijah, and Christ had. Man perverts himself in the scriptures when he assumes that long 40-day fasts were ordained for all men. Those who insist that it is proper to fast for 40 days in order to follow the example of Christ should adhere to the pattern of abstinence, as well as length of time to be consistent with the example. This they cannot do. These men of God abstain not only from food entirely, but also from water. Such a feat is a physical impossibility in the absence of supernatural sustenance. Fasting, second step to eternal life, Johnson, page 42. Orson Pratt also commented on the 40-day fasts of these great men. There was a power over and in those ancient servants of God that satisfied the cravings of the appetite in passing through such circumstances. J.D. 18:265. Martin Luther recognized the divine nature of these special 40-day fasts of Christ and Moses, and cautioned us not to do the same, unless we have his word. No one can follow this example and fast 40 days and nights as Christ did without eating any food. Christ rather followed the example of Moses, who fasted also 40 days and nights, when he received the law of God on Mount Sinai. Thus Christ also wished to fast when he was about to bring to us, and give expression to, the new law. For although Christ did fast 40 days, yet there is no word of his that he requires us to do the same and fast as he did. Indeed, he did many other things, which he wishes us not to do, but whatever he calls us to do or leave undone, we should see to it that we have his word to support our actions. Sermons of Martin Luther 2:134. Beneficial effects of long fasts. As mentioned, then, 40-day fasts without food and water are not intended for us just because Moses, Elijah, and Christ fasted that long. Longer liquid fasts today are more particularly for health reasons, as it is during long fasts that cancer cells and tumors are killed and the system is flushed out. Johanna Brehm describes the beneficial effects of long fasts when grapes are used. Abnormal growths, cancers, tumors, ulcers, abscesses, and fibrous masses seem to be dissolved by the powerful chemical agent in the grape. Diseased tissues and fatty degenerations, every form of morbid matter, is apparently broken up into minute particles and thrown into the bloodstream to be carried to the organs of excretion. The Grape Cure, page 105. The ingestion of grapes and/or grape juice is an effective healer when sustaining such a fast for a long enough period of time. First, it gives the body the necessary food to sustain life. Second, it provides enzymes to sustain strength so a person can continue to work without tiring. Third, it acts as a powerful solvent to dissolve and break loose the hardened crusts of junk and poisons, adhering to the stomach, intestines, blood vessels, or colon. To accomplish proper and complete healing may take many long fasts, as curing the body of its maladies is not done miraculously or instantaneously. Johanna continues. In my own case, while the poisons of the cancer have been eliminated and the cancer has disappeared, physical examinations by medical men disclose that there are numerous adhesions as a result of the malignant growth. One doctor advances the opinion that it will take at least 7 years for these adhesions to be broken up. It is useless, therefore, to continue the grape diet in the hope of completely eradicating the growth within a few weeks, or even a few months. This treatment is slow, requiring patience and perseverance, but the patient is improving all the time, frequently able to go about his daily duties. One cannot expect to rid himself within a few weeks of poisons which he has been storing up during his entire life. The Grape Cure, page 76. Oftentimes people use the grape cure for cancer because it will not only arrest a cancer, but it will also begin to dislodge some of its poisons. Since these toxins are released into the bloodstream, a secondary problem arises: how to expel them as quickly as possible from the body. It is here that grape juice and water are vital to the cleansing of the system. Also to be considered is the fact that some cancers are extremely difficult to eradicate from the body. When fasting and fighting the cancer has reduced these victims to just skin and bone, there is nothing left for the cancer to live on, so it usually dies before the patient does. Such problems are impossible to determine beforehand, as to how long it will take to arrive at a turning point for the disease. Cancers live on sick bodies, and so it depends on the health of the body, as to how long it takes to ward off such serious problems. The best way to avoid most cancer is to take means to prevent it in the first place. Getting the body tuned up or purified through fasting, juices and pure water, is a good basic method. Not very much has been done scientifically in the realm of long fasts. Dr. Aracetti had made 4 public scientific tests of fasting for 21, 24, and 32 days. The latter test was the world's record for a fast conducted under strict scientific supervision by government officials. He wrote, "How long one should fast cannot be definitely stated at all, in advance, even in cases where the condition of the patient is known. When and how to break the fast is determined by noting carefully how conditions change during the fast. You now understand that the fast should be broken as soon as you notice that the obstructions are becoming too great in the circulation, and the blood needs new vital substances to resist and neutralize the poisons. Change your ideas regarding the claim the longer you fast the better the cure." Mucusless Diet, Arat, page 148. One man thought fasting would be a good way to commit suicide, but it backfired with astonishing results. I do not know whether some desperate degrees of abstinence would not have the same effect upon other men, as they had upon Atticus, who, weary of his life as well as his physicians, by long and cruel pains of a dropsical gout, and despairing of any cure, resolved by degrees to starve himself to death, and went so far, that the physicians found he had ended his disease instead of his life. Vitality, Fasting and Nutrition, Herod Carrington, page 92. It has been acknowledged that some people have died from going on too long a fast. Probably they did not die from lack of food, but rather from systems clogged with waste materials, fasting incorrectly, lack of water, breaking the fast with the wrong foods, etc. And this leads us to the next important section. Breaking the fast. The method of breaking a fast may be more critical than the fast itself. As mentioned, some people have actually died from improper handling of the return to solid food. One personal acquaintance of the author fasted nearly 40 days, and then celebrated her accomplishment with her husband by eating a big feast. She became deathly sick, unable to get out of bed for over a week. The whole fast may prove worthless just because of incorrectly breaking it. Sometimes it takes just as long to get back to normal eating as the fast itself. The craving for food is never stronger than right after a fast. Even overexertion can be very dangerous. According to Dr. Arat, after the fast is finished, eating the right food is just as important as the abstaining from it. How to break a fast. The right food after a fast is as important and decisive for proper results as the fast itself. At the same time, it depends entirely upon the condition of the patient, and very much upon the length of the fast. You may learn from the results of the two extreme cases, both of which ended fatally, not from a fast, but from the first wrong meal, just why this knowledge is so important. The one-sided meat eater, suffering from diabetes, broke his fast which lasted about a week by eating dates and died from the effects. A man of over 60 years of age fasted 28 days, too long. His first meal of vegetarian foods consisted mainly of boiled potatoes. A necessary operation showed that the potatoes were kept in the contracted intestines by thick, sticky mucus, so strong that a piece had to be cut off, and the patient died shortly after the operation. In the first case, the terrible poisons loosened in the stomach of this one-sided meat eater during his fast when mixed with the concentrated fruit sugar of the dates caused at once so great a fermentation with carbonic acid gases and other poisons, that the patient could not stand the shock. The correct advice would be: first a laxative, later raw and cooked starchless vegetables, a piece of rough bran bread toast. Sauerkraut is to be recommended in such cases. No fruit should be eaten for a long time after fast has been broken. The patient should have been prepared for the fast by a longer transition diet. In the second case, the patient fasted entirely too long for a man of his age without proper preparation. Hot compresses on the abdomen, high enemas might have helped the elimination, together with a strong eliminative laxative and then starchless, mostly raw, vegetables, no fruits for a considerable time. Through these two very instructive examples, you may see how individually different the advice must be, and how wrong it is to make up general suggestions concerning how to break a fast. Mucusless diet, Art, pages 150 to 51. In coming off of a long fast, then, it is essential to eat only very small portions of food in the beginning. Then gradually eat more frequently, so that the stomach has only small amounts to digest at a time. The best method is to gradually increase the intake of vegetable juices, so that the body cells can quickly and easily receive good nutrition to begin its rebuilding program. Some people recommend eating a small grapefruit as the first food ingested into the body, so that the digestive juices in the stomach will be stimulated. It can't be stressed enough that one should start eating solid foods very slowly and selectively, especially after longer fasts.